Fabio Sinibaldi. Welcome to the Science of Psychotherapy podcast. It's so great to have you here.
Oh, I'm really happy to be here with you today. It's a great honor for me to be here.
And hello from Richard. Fabio, how are you going?
Oh, I'm great, thank you.
You look very much like you look on your book.
Oh, perfect. How I look on my book.
But it is, of course, because of your book, which I know you have been working on for quite some time, that we're having you on the program today. We have already published in the magazine some preliminary articles, but I was very excited to see the book come out. Now, you work with a collaborator, and you have a very good connection with your collaborator. Could you tell us a little about that?
Yes, I ended up marrying with my collaborator. She's my wife, is Sarah Achilli. She's a nutrition expert, and our approach has a huge support by nutrition sciences for mental health, for change programs. So we work together very well and support each other because, as you know, there are a lot of persons who want to start losing weight, but they have psychological resistance. And on the other side, as we talk in the book, there are many implications about the food every day we eat and our neurobiological process. So to make some very simple example, it is well known that PTSD is all about brain inflammation. So you have amygdala, insula, some areas very hyperexcited, the so-called hyperarousal. So it's really interesting knowing that some sugars, glutamate, and other food addictive do the same work. So we are putting fuel on fire if we eat in the wrong way. And the good news is that you can reverse the process. And so you can help to reverse this, removing some food and adding some other components. And you can do on different level. I know you both are huge fans of memory consolidation process.
Yes, that's right. Okay.
So I was explaining that in our work we study different kind of problems of difficulties. So, for example, we have a PTSD, chronic stress that are about brain inflammation, and the food we eat every day. It's possible to have huge effects, but you can drive these effects in the direction you want. So you can worsen that if you eat too much sugars, carbohydrates, glutamate, or you can ease your situation and you can feel better and have a great improvement. And this is about neural inflammation that I put in the switch area number 2, but we can do a step back and go to neural plasticity in step 1. You are huge fans of a memory consolidation process, and me too. And I love to trying to perfecting the processes. So I know that the work from Bruce Hecker and other colleagues are great, but I discovered I do a lot of research about how you can prepare your body, your neural biology to be more plastic. And so if you eat a lot of omega-3, you can improve your neural plasticity before doing some process of memory consolidation, EMDR, or other technique you already do. Or there are also very interesting researches about other food components, such as the so-called medium chain fatty acid that you can find easily in coconut butter, so it's not a medication, it's a good food. And there are very interesting researches showing that with only 2 spoons a day of coconut butter, you can reverse partially the Alzheimer's degenerative effect. So if you can do that with the degeneration in Alzheimer's, you can imagine how powerful it is with anxiety, chronic stress, post-traumatic stress disorder, and so on. So part of my research is about using food to improve that. And so it's amazing when a patient came into my studio, I asked a strange question for a psychotherapist. How is your breakfast, for example? Are you used to fasting? And so it's a different way to support that 360 degrees all your patient. But it's not the only way. Another part of my work is about to practically use the neuroscience research. I am very excited every time I read a new research, such as from Joseph Ledoux, from Lisa Barrett-Feldman, about the neural process of a defensive mechanism, of a prediction that are not conscious. And for example, the insula in our brain is part of it's called the salience network that is very famous, but there are a lot of researches that are showing us that the insula responds very, very well to the movement, the slow movement of huge big muscles, such as in the legs, in your back. And if you do this movement very slowly and in the so-called negative phase, the negative phase of a movement is that the positive phase is when you lift something up, the negative is under control. It's not so easy to control that.
Okay, so
we developed.
Sorry,
we lost you.
We were just about to do the
positive
phase.
Positive phase.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So the positive phase of a movement is when you lift up something. The negative phase is when you slowly release and try to control. That it's really harder to do. We are not used to control the negative phase. And this negative phase is very stimulating the good work and processes by the insula in the salience network. So we had an interesting idea, and this idea was who is very trained, very well trained using this kind of movement. And we thought about the circus artist, a very experienced yoga teacher. So we make some researches and we figure out that they are very able in doing this movement. Their insula work just as much as needed. So if you take a person who is very anxious, their insula is always working. It's always working, and it never goes in the so-called termination. There's no problem. You have stopped arguing with someone, and their insula, their amygdala, are going on and on and on. So we, after doing some research about their insula functioning, we developed some technique. One of them is called the crossed breathing, the crossed cycle breathing, that is about breathing slowly, moving your head back and forward, trying to disconnect and reconnect the different phases. Why? Because we generally associate the movement, if you try breathing in and moving your head backwards, it may be easy. If you try then breathing out, it could be more difficult, but it's not natural, this. So if you train this process, this movement, your insula regain control, and over the time, it's a real training. It's not, you can't do this only 1 or 3 times. You have to practice few minutes, 3 minutes a day, but for 3-4 weeks. Your insula restart processing the right way. And so the next time there is a threat, the systems bring in the insula, and the insula work in the right way. And you can do this with this technique, with another technique that is called the resource balance technique, where you can do different exercise. One of the most easy to do is to do pushes on only one leg, because you focus all your attention and muscular power on a focused part of your body that is not usual. And you can break the so-called dysfunctional schemes that, you know, are typical in different psychological approach. And we try to bring together the muscular activation schemes, disrupting them while you disrupt your process, what you are imagining in your brain. And this way, your brain networks are allowed to restructure the process. I look at your work, Richard, with mirroring hands, and I think there is some good connection. We use different process to reach some similar way of work.
Yes, I mean this. I mean, I was very excited looking at your work, because I also married well. Because my wife is works with the body, so she works with massage therapy. She also is a lifestyle medicine expert. She has several degrees in that, and all these things you talk about from the body worker's point of view is exactly the sort of work that Susan has been doing, and she will utilize these unusual movements, very similar to the ones that you've discovered. So as you say, we find we come to the same place through different paths in order to, it's to disrupt. And I know we say disruption, but I would even be maybe not kinder, but softer, saying it's a breaking of the rigidity, a breakthrough of the rigidity. And then what I talk about in mirroring hands, which we try to do with breaking of the rigidity in patterns, is that then creates the environment that the body can self-regulate and self-repair. And that one of you, where you say you're working on one leg and then the other leg, absolutely something that Sue has done with me many times. I'm having trouble with one thing, and she says, stand on one leg. And I go, oh, for goodness sake. I stand on one leg, and then on the other one, I go, oh, I feel much better. So the ability to self-regulate requires the appropriate circumstances of bodily circumstances. And this is why I love those exercises you have in the book.
Okay, great. I appreciate it very much. And I totally agree. And you can do something disrupting that is very strong, that some way, sometimes, because it could be useful, but other times we have to do something more gently, because we have different process, we have to adapt to the correct level of activation, of arousal. And another way I developed to put together the so-called limbic system with the prefrontal cortex, the dialogue among our parts. And we can talk about all the theories behind it, because there were the accelerator and brake theory, the integrative theory that I prefer. But let's go away from the theory for a while and focus on a practical hints. I've discovered that if you ask someone to do a push-up or to close, so to recreate the fetal position, we have a technique called isometric emotion that is all about isometric movement, but in different ways. So we have protective movements such as fetal position, but the opposite, when we go, when we shorten the back chain, that is typical of great surprise mixed with fear. And if you ask someone to do one of these two movements, they do, and you put that level at 100%. And then try to ask, okay, now do 90%, now do 10%. And it's surprising because part of them realize that it's quite easy to find this percentage that obviously is not perfect, but is something you do with your instinct. Some of them that use too much the cognition can't do this. They refuse or they get stuck. Oh, it's possible to do. And if you provoke them doing, proposing something extreme, now do 200%. They say, I was already 100, how can I do 200? But you can do, because we don't control very well our body, and we can try with these tricks to gain more control at the bodily level and limbic system, so innate responses, and mediate and create a right and functioning dialogue with the superior responses. So
yes. Yeah, I was going to say, because the control is one word, but it's also just awareness, which is what we lose in our very cognitive or very, sort of over-rational, over-cognitive mind. And you do need, but your cognitive capacities can be used to enhance your ability to notice, to have that felt sense. And that's a really interesting aspect of what you bring out. By doing this activity, you actually break or open the connection between your cognitive awareness and your biological activities.
And the interesting things of using the scheme I put together in the switch model is that in my model, these flows, postural flows, motor post, but it has to put in synchro with your ideative flows, your communicational flows, but also we can go back to the first level. If your gut is inflamed, your muscles are tight and you can't control it very well. And,
yes.
And going back in the middle to the third level of switch, where we have the hubs, the neural hubs, the insula, together with the PAG, the periaqueductal gray, have a very useful ability to register how much our freedom of movement can guarantee to us the possibility to escape. That is something that we have in common with all the mammals, but and here we are more mammals than we believe. So if you take a dog and you put in a new place, ambiguous, threatening, he first of all looks for a way out. So it's something you do naturally. When you take a man and you put in a room with ambiguous stimulus, not clear contextual clues, the man try with his cognition to evaluate something, but his amygdala and his periaqueductal gray are looking for ways out, mobility of the neck, mobility of the joints. So you can work on all this level at the end. Of course, you can't work on all of them in the same moment. It's a lot, but you can try to put them in the right sequence to have the best result and to help the patients to have a whole effect and a real control that is not only cognitive, only provisional. I like a lot the work that some coaches do about planning, problem solving, but it's only a part. If your body is not ready for something you had not planned, no planning is working. So you have to put it down. You have to work on all this level.
So Matt, this is the sort of where I'm talking about naturalness, this return to the naturalness.
Yeah, I just love this conversation about, this is a real holistic, you know, understanding of how we work, and this integration of the somatics, the diet. You know, we're increasingly, you know, we have a lot of great people, you know, John Arden and others that are on, and also talking about this holistic perspective that we can't separate, you know, body, brain, and mind. And I love what Fabio is doing here, because he makes it so practical. I mean, and at the end of the show, in the show notes, we'll put links to some of the resources that he has, but they are fun and practical, and just get straight down to the point. He doesn't bog us down into the, you know, too high in the neuroscience. He just gets very practical, and I love that about this. About what he's doing here. So Fabio, please.
And there's some great stuff on the website, Fabio, that there's some examples and some samples of the book and some excerpts. There's a lot of wonderful invitations to expand, to take their interest further right into the book.
Yeah. Fabio, what you had opened with, you said it's a very strange thing for a psychotherapist to say to a client, you know, what did you have for breakfast? And yet we've been saying this again and again, you know, this approach that as psychotherapists, we need to have this holistic understanding of how our whole body and neural system is working in the environment as well as interpersonally. So it shouldn't be an unusual question anymore.
No, I'm really happy. And I think this approach, scientific and holistic, is the real way to do what you called with your changing the name of the magazine, a real science of psychotherapy. So you don't use just a model. You use all the scientific suggestions, tools you have these days. It's great.
Yeah. Yes, I think the word holistic, we need to maybe move that out and just have the word whole, just complete. So this, of course, is of course my great effort is to get people to think in the complexity, and you make a small change to one point, and you can make very large changes to another. And I think this is what is, as some people might look, and I want to sort of stop them doing this, I might look at some of your exercises, like just a breathing here, you lift your head, or just to stand on a leg. But no, these very small breaks and shifts in the system have very, very large impacts. And you've got good evidence in your research as to the sorts of outcomes that you produce with this work?
Yes, we do always research about the effectiveness of each tool we develop, because we believe in a scientific approach. So I'm very proud of my intuitions, but it's not enough. Yeah. So I have to test, and we generally do 2 levels of research. We do the first level with small groups of patients or volunteers, And then we have a so-called hub that is an association that gives you access to some tools online, information, and all the practitioners involved that are members of this hub are invited to use these tools and make research, and we gather all the results and perfect them. I love also to have this also work in progress approach. So sometimes I post some updates. Okay, this is the basic technique, but we have discovered if you use before the left hand and after the right hand is better. And it's always improving, or there is some researching, some new collaboration, and so new discoveries that give you a hint, and you put everything together. I love this way to have a dynamic framework, not a static one, a definitive tool, because a definitive tool is dead. In the way you use the word definitive is not effective anymore.
Yeah, and this is the sort of it's the confusion that you have. You do so much. Everyone works really hard to find the answer, and then to only find that the answer is a transient passing moment. But this is the truth of development and growth, and we've disabled ourselves in so many ways in the way our modern culture has us sitting down a lot more, eating a lot more of processed foods and so on and so forth. And I would like to apply to the switch and the book and the processes that you're one of the people that are re-abling ourselves. I think it's more than just a nice thing and isn't Fabio clever. I think it's actually terribly, terribly important work. And it's as important as any of the global activities that we're doing to stop disabling our environment, disabling our culture, and disabling our biology. So my recommendation to work with your program and to work with your exercises, can't be stronger.
Absolutely.
Okay, Richard, I totally agree with this idea that that our culture is disabling ourselves, our behaviors, and in particular, I love a topic that is about aggression. Aggressive behavior are strongly inhibited, but if you study neurobiology, if you study ethology, compared ethology, aggression is a behavior very important to discover our resources, to set boundaries, interpersonal boundaries, to put social rules at a not verbal level. And I think a significant things we can look at is the high success of negative aggressive person in movies, in TV series, that we love them. And we love them because they do something we are not allowed to. And the important thing is to understand that there is a smaller piece of their behavior that is useful. We have to use to re-enable us to use that, and the dysfunctional part not, of course.
Yes. And everything we have has got the potential to be beneficial. So there's no good bits or bad bits. There just are the bits. They're just used well, or used productively and beneficially, or used they become disruptive and disorganizing.
And it's very important to understand the right context, the right moment, the right interlocutors, and to be clear about your objective. Because a lot of person use a bad way to use switch on off, no other way, and no aggressive, huge aggression. And so you can kill your relationship. But also the simplest mammal is very able. There are researches, there is a huge expansion in the last decades of animal neuroscience about behavior in animals. And they discovered that a dog can instinctively discriminate among 12 different levels of aggression, focusing on the context, the interlocutor, their objective. And as we know, dogs are the best animals. I love them, but are not so cognitive. So there is something in their mammal brain that we have too, that is very able to regulate that, but we have to train, to enable us to train, to discover, to experiment. So the transformative, the experiential approaches are very important to do this kind of psychotherapy that can be done in our studios, but as the patients has to work outside to do real experiences, and we can guide them through these experiences to take the most out of this experimentation and everything they can do to train themselves, re-enable themselves.
How wonderful.
Wonderful.
Well, Matt, I don't know, but that just sounds like such a lovely sort of wind rounding up of the process.
Absolutely. Look, I could listen to Fabio all day, but we do have to wrap it up, and we will point everybody to the wonderful resources that are available. But Fabio, I just thank you so much for giving us your time today. It was wonderful.
A pleasure. Thank you.
And we do look forward to hearing more from you.
It will be a pleasure too. I'm here. I will appreciate a lot to spend more time with you, because it's not an effort, but it's a pleasure to discuss with enlightened colleagues, to mind liking, and I think I'm a great podcast. So I think if there is a possibility, there is to talk, to have a feedback from their listeners, I will be pleased to answer them.
Yeah, and we need to meet regularly to catch up with the updates. So, you know, on a sort of every few months, we need to see where the research is going, because not a lot of people do that. So that's very exciting, and you know, we've been watching, and we've been very excited. So for now, we will say buongiorno, buonasera, some buon for you in Italy, and good night from us.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Fabio. Okay, bye-bye.
Buonanotte.
Buonanotte. Yeah.
Ciao a tutti.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.